Hi there, my name is Genevieve Doherty and I am the International Senior Lead at IADT. And this presentation is about understanding the Irish visa and immigration system. So I'm going to briefly cover the entry visa, the pre-clearance system, border control, registering your permission, renewing your IRP stamp 2 permission and your graduate visa stamp 1G. The information contained in this presentation is for guidance only. It was correct at the time of publishing, but regulations can change, so please always check your Irish visa requirements at the official source, irishimmigration.ie. So who needs an entry visa? Students from a visa requiring country need an entry visa or pre-clearance to come into Ireland. So countries include, but it's not limited to this list, I'm only giving you a couple of examples: India, Pakistan, Nigeria, China. Students from non-visa requiring countries do not need a pre-entry or pre-clearance visa. These countries, for example, include the US, Australia, Canada, Mexico, Brazil. If you're not sure if your country is visa requiring or not, please check using the link I provided here. So, when should you apply for your entry visa if you need one? Well, we always recommend that you give yourself as much time as possible and start preparing for your pre-entry visa while you're waiting for a decision on your offer. Paperwork can take quite a long time to pull together, particularly the financial element of it. Try to give yourself a minimum of 12 weeks to apply for the long stay study visa. Some countries are taking 12 to 16 weeks for decisions, others only 8, so do keep an eye on the Irish immigration website for updates on the timescales for visa processing. IADT cannot intervene in visa decisions, and we cannot request the authorities to speed up the visa decision process. You will not be permitted to start the course if your visa is not approved in time, unfortunately. And a little tip, if you can, do apply for a multiple entry student visa. It's €90, single entry visa is 60. The multiple entry visa will allow you to enter and leave Ireland, so it's an easier one to have. But both single entry and multiple entry visas are perfectly valid for you to get clearance to come into Ireland. So border control, who goes through border control? Well, everybody does. So a pre-entry clearance does not guarantee you entry into Ireland. You still need to pass through border control. And not needing a pre-entry clearance does not also guarantee you entry into Ireland. You also have to go through border control. So to ensure a smooth entry, you should have the following information ready in your hand, from which your entry visa or pre-clearance if you needed it, evidence that you have your comprehensive medical insurance, your IADT offer letter and confirmation of acceptance, and evidence that you've paid your fees in full, your accommodation address while in Ireland, even if it's just for the first few days or a week, which we actually recommend, that's perfectly okay. We do not recommend that you pay for a full semester or full year accommodation before you come. Always give yourself the option of viewing places in person. There's a lot of scams around. The official guidelines for what you need at the border are available on the Irish immigration website as well, and I've included the link at the bottom of the page here. So who must register for an IRP stamp 2? Well, all students coming from non-European countries must register their permission to stay in Ireland. The IRP stands for the Irish Residency Permit, and a stamp 2 refers to the student visa. So IRPs can have lots of different stamps, different numbers on them. So the one that you will be applying for is the stamp 2, which is for full-time study. A stamp 2 IRP card allows you to work part-time, which is 20 hours per week during term time, and full-time up to 40 hours per week during vacation periods. The IRP is it's about the size of a credit card, and you will keep this once you have it in your wallet at all times. So it's really important. This is your important identification while you're here in Ireland. It'll cost you €300 to apply for it, and you must have an Irish address as it will be sent to you by post. So the information again on applying for it, it must be applied for online, is on the lower left-hand side of this page. If you've had to go through pre-clearance, you will have provided all your financial information already. But if you haven't, so for example, if you're from the US, you won't have gone through this process. So be ready to provide financial information when you're applying for your IRP the first time. You'll need to prove that you've ready access to €10,000. So while I said you're allowed to work part-time when you have your IRP card, any money that you earn from part-time work is not counted towards this €10,000. So please be aware of that. You'll need to provide evidence that you have this in your bank account. Every student will need to renew their IRP after 12 months. They were only ever valid for 12 months. They're not valid for the duration of your course. So it's really important that you know that. Unfortunately, the renewal costs €300 at the moment. So you have to pay that every time you renew it. The immigration authorities always look for evidence that you're registered as a student, that your fees are paid, and that you have an Irish address, and that you have your sufficient funds, €10,000 medical insurance, and that you're progressing your studies. So, for example, you cannot be staying in year one of study for multiple years. So they want to see progression. So all of these things are required every time you renew your IRP stamp 2. When you have graduated from your program, or when you have your final results and your final transcripts, you don't actually have to have done the graduation ceremony yet. You can apply for your stamp 1G, which is the stay back visa. You can apply up to 24 months, so 12 months, and then you can renew it for 12 months depending on how long you've been in Ireland already. You must have a valid stamp 2 to apply for a change of status to a stamp 1G. And again, it will cost you €300 to make this change. And again, I've included a link here for information on the graduate scheme visa. So it's really important to stay visa compliant throughout your studies here while you're in IIDT and while you're staying in Ireland on a student visa. We are required to provide a list of all our registered non-EU students to Irish immigration, to the authorities each year. If a student withdraws from the programme of study and they're here on a visa, we are required to let the visa authorities know immediately. If you do not formally withdraw from your course, but you no longer engage in your course, no longer attend, or no longer do your coursework, etc., we are also obliged to let the visa authorities know. So do remember, it is your responsibility to make yourself familiar with the regulations surrounding your visa and to stay compliant with it. So finally, some useful links. Most of these are scattered throughout the presentation, but just to go over them again, the first one is iidt.ie/international. So that's for the International Student Hub, where you'll find all sorts of helpful information, not just around visas and immigration, but things about sections about opening bank accounts, your regulations around studying part-time, getting a PPS number, all that sort of stuff. And then the rest of them are Irish immigration related, your border control, all those regulations and links that I put throughout this presentation. And finally, at the bottom, international@iidt.ie is my email address. Please feel to drop me a line if you have any questions whatsoever. I hope you have found this presentation helpful and look forward to meeting you in IIDT. Thank you.